Whoa, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I thought I would never have to mention this guy's name again. Joseph Budden. Oh, man. Mm, mm, mm. Now, Joe Budden is one of the pioneers, my guy. One of the pioneers of this. And when you say this, you probably be like, well, what do you even mean? I don't even know what that means. Pioneer. What did he pioneer? Well, Joe Budden believed, in his infinite wisdom, that it would be his grandiose idea, right? If he was to create a scenario in which he's the determining factor of everything, the end all, be all of everything. That's what he wanted to do. Joe wanted to create an atmosphere where he was the one on the outside as the outcast. And he's going to tell you what went wrong with the system of hip hop. That is what Joe Budden was. Joe was that guy. Now, Joe came on the scene when he did Everyday Struggle and all that, but before then, Joe Budden was still lighting people up on social media. Now, all of a sudden, Joe Budden gets this show and he Joe Budden the whole thing. Everyday Struggle became a bad show. After weeks of trying to make it a decent show, it fell off the wagons because it had a system. I'm big dog, you little dog. And once academics started to grow, because Joe brought him up, now all of a sudden, people got to deal with this nonsense that you brought into the surface. This academics who is everything about this industry that you claim you dislike or have disdain for. Now, on top of that, we have all of these so-called leaders, right, of hip hop, who appointed Joe Budden to be the general of that. A one-hit wonder. But no one says anything because he had went to try to discover this outlet a long time ago because this fits him. This guy is out of the loop on almost everything that is happening in the industry. He doesn't listen to this new stuff. I could tell a bullshit artist from a mile away, and that's him. Listen. Listen. I have been doing this for a very long time. Translation, I've been doing this for a very long time. So I understand, I've seen it all. I'm no Johnny come lately. I know that Rory and Mal being on the Joe Budden podcast is when the Joe Budden podcast was at its peak. But I also know Joe knows how to torpedo things. He was anti-establishment, anti-system, anti-everything. Rory and Mal. Your only existence is me. Joe felt he was the driving force of everything, and people are now paying attention to him. He was manipulating and using these guys as minions. Before the show made any money, and any money was really brought in, they were paid the bare minimum at Everyday Struggle. So I should have known. I should have known once I saw this. I should have known. First off, Complex had Everyday Struggle. Now, the people that worked at Complex that hated Joe Budden, now they are in relationships with Joe Budden because they have new people that are in charge there. So now that you have these new personalities there, they want to rank Joe Budden #1 podcast show for hip hop, which means hip hop is dead. That's what it means. He's the most abrasive commentator in hip hop. No, he isn't. He isn't. There are way better hip hop shows than this. His show was so bad, he had to go get a band of more people and pour it in. He had to bring in Queen's Flip. He has to go get Melissa Ford because they never had a female voice on the show because Joe is such a misogynist. Joe Budden had 2 other female shows on his Joe Budden network where he completely sexual harassed a woman that he came out and apologized to about his advances. And instead of helping these women careers, he's trying to screw them all up, take people off of their shows and move them on to his. That's your part of a network? Is to run a brothel? Dude is the biggest hypocrite there's ever been, probably in the history of entertainment. Once this guy got a bag, he immediately turned on the people that helped him make the bag. Only keeping those other people around who really hated him and disgruntled, couldn't deal with his tantrums. Blame them for not doing their jobs when they are doing more than their jobs. Underpaid them. And now that he's getting money now he's big time. He got what he wanted. He got Rory and Mal to walk away and not fight for their money. I don't know how he did that. You never walk away from what's yours. If you got to go in court and let your lawyers duel it out, let them duel it out. But that's your money. Joe knows it. Joe owes you guys a lot. Because he would not be in position right now to do any of this had you guys were taking him to court. And he had to open the books. If Joe had to open the books and explain every dollar, he would be screwed. And he knows it. So you guys did him a solid. So he should be able to take any bit of criticism you guys have to say. Period. I would never sit there with a co-host who's basically laughing and kikiing at someone else making fun of my co-host on my show. and I don't have their backs, and we're going to go to work every day, and you're going to allow this to continue to go on without you even checking it or addressing it, first of all, that means you don't respect the friendship or our business partnership, because that hurts you if I'm on your show. I'm just saying. When I'm right, I'm right. And when I'm wrong, I'm right. So the way I look at it is this. Joe Budden got the #1 spot, right? And they just basically told the truth.
Big Tech? Oh, Big man. Tech. Look at the cat. The 1-2 punch of Big Tech. Look at the cat. The cat.
It refers to their former host, Cat Burglar, due to their financial Budden That's podcast.
Oh, of course. Look at that. The thief. The cat burglar. Big Tegrity. Big Tech? Oh, Big man. Look at the cat. The 1-2 punch of Big Tech. Look at the cat burglar. Staring off into the next house he wants to run in. Big cat. That's Big Cat. Is that a mirror? Quiet as a mouse.
I believe that this person belongs in the top 5.
Yeah.
I'm not.
So they have every reason to roast that man. So Joe Budden got upset and started calling them the bare minimum boys. As he's wearing some weird looking glasses with a weird looking hat on his head, dressed up like he's colorblind and he's living in Silicon Valley. And he said some key things. Yes, he did. He said some key things. Let's listen.
Instead of critiquing people's placement on this list, we need more critiquing on why you're not on it. To everyone not on it, shut the fuck up.
See, now, here he is basically giving a breakdown as to why everyone else isn't on the list, why he could say anything he wants, and how he could do everything he wants to do. Here's the drawback, okay, people? I want you to understand this. Here's the drawback. Joe Budden is Joe Budden for real. Translation. Joe Budden is not going to change the way he is, the way he appears to be, the way he walks and talks. He is going to be an elitist all the way. Joe Budden gave some advice, though. When I listened to it, that was true. You cannot go to home plate with your foot still stuck on first base. And he called them the bare minimum boys. And I'm going to say this in all honesty. Rory and Mal are that right now. And eventually, they're going to collide. And they're going to split. Rory wants to expand. He wants to go further. Mal is comfortable at staying at one position. And let's not leave this spot. And Rory's going to want to grow. This will lead to a fight and a split between the two. Mal does not change. Mal has been the same wavelength. He's been the same attitude. He's been the same person he's always been. He's cool hanging around his friends in Silicon Valley. But as the years go on, buddy, you're going to get old. Your friends that you're hanging with, your skateboard buddies, they're going to get married. They're going to have their own kids and family. They ain't going to be able to skateboard with you no more. So now you're looking at a new age group that you're going to try to latch on to and roll around with and skateboard with, wear weird clothes with. But you're not growing. So yeah, Joe Budden really isn't the best podcast for hip hop. Because what do they do for hip hop? Absolutely nothing. No one has went to download a song because they heard it on the Joe Budden network. All Joe Budden does is criticize whatever new music comes out, new artists come out. They kick him around until somebody tells them, hey, he's a friend of ours. He's a friend of the show. Don't kick him around. Didn't Joe's like, I don't want to interview guests. Now he's interviewing guests. Right? I don't like to interview. And next thing you know, he's interviewing them. I used to hate interviewing people. Unless I really like the person and really go out to do the interview. But other than that, the process of doing an interview, it's like you got to hunt them down. You got to wait till they feel generous, and you're sitting there making calls. They set a date, so you're not bothering them anymore. Then when that time comes, they'll be like, well, I got to go eat dinner. I'm like, well, you told me to call you at this time. This is the reason I'm calling you back at this said time. Not to obligate you, but this is the time you said call back, your time. And he was like, yeah, but I didn't eat yet. I'm like, well, I didn't know that. Well, can you call back when you get there? No, you can just call me back. Let's just make an hour, push it back an hour. I'm like, all right. Then you call back and they don't even answer the phone. So it's been a lot of weird conversations I've had like that doing interviews. Sometimes I just walked away from a complete interview. I'm just like, I'm not calling that dude again. I might have been a fan of them in the ring or what they were doing in their sport. But, like, I don't have to kiss up to you, bro. Like, nah. And at that time, if you wasn't Manny Pacquiao or Mayweather, you wasn't really bringing us any kind of money, so you could go. But Joe Budden sit back and critiques all these rappers when this dude has been a drug addict his entire career. This dude was sitting around doing dust, PCP, and talking about everybody else. Then he started popping pills. He started drinking. Then he went on all these reality shows with all these weird looking chicks he was dating. Chick looked like she worked at a tattoo parlor. And he was anti the establishment, anti the rules. Now they gave him a Mary hat and some sweaters and some slip-on slippers, and now he's the tech guru, Joe Budden. No, they're paying for that number one spot in hip hop. Because it really doesn't mean anything because you're not the number one podcast. You're not the Joe Rogan podcast. You see, they want you to think you're doing something by giving you a number. So when you got the top podcasts in the world, that's where you want to look at. That's where you want to be. And if you look at the top 10 podcasts, probably in the world, you won't see any of these rap shows. Well, people find it very interesting when they're listening to a podcast show. The Joe Rogan Experience is the number one podcast show. They average 11 million people listening each episode. No one has that. What is another show that's been successful? Because it's not fair to compare them to that. Remember Ben Shapiro, the political spectrum, that guy? He's up there. Right? They got a lot of these podcast shows people listen to now. So, let me see. Let's look at top 5. Let me see if I can pull that up. Should be able to pull it up. It's a PC, right? Top hip hop podcast shows. We're gonna go by their list. Wow. So, if No Jumper's on the list, Rory and Mal is on this list. Somebody said DJ Academics podcast show is still on there. I don't even know who that guy is, really. The Breakfast Club is considered a podcast? Nick Cannon's Class, Joe Budden Show is a podcast? Expeditiously with T.I. is a podcast? Then there's Joe. But you mean to tell me Joe Budden is better than $1 million worth of game or Drink Champs? I would say $1 million worth of game and Drink Champs are more in tune with hip hop than the Joe Budden Cavs of Misfits. Ish and Ice and all of those people on the list. I mean, for real, Rory and Mal is better than that show. Period. They are. They just need to expand more. If they were able to expand more, then they would go in a much different direction. The Jumper, actually, No Jumper is actually probably on more dealing with hip hop than Joe Budden show. The Joe Budden podcast really does not deal with hip hop. Seriously. Somebody might bring a rapper onto the show. It deals with all of the aspects Joe Budden claimed he hated about everything. I'm not mesmerized here. I don't want to interview one of these buggity fuck niggas on my show. That was Joe. That was him. Now, what happened? He sits there and comes down on these syrupy rappers, but he was a rapper on dust, popping pills. Drink Champ does more because they have guests on their show for hip hop. So that's basically their show. So their show is more granted around the core of hip hop. Yours is not. Now, I think Rap Radar is underrated. Because it actually deals with rap and hip hop. There's some that's coming up and doing their thing, but as far as where they are now, I figure that this is the best time in the world to for them to do their due diligence. But let's go to the list that got everybody upset. Hold on. It was Complex's list. That got people. It was top hip hop. Right? Because they got top this. You know them, they're gonna. They're not gonna have it the way. Gotta be hip hop, you know. Can't just be podcast. Has to be separate. There it is. Complex got academics up there. Oh, this is the power ranking? What in the world? Complex has a power ranking. And Adam 22 is 19 on the list. Wow. Peter Rosenberg is 16. Angela Ebro is ahead of him. Angie Martinez is 12. Jason Lee is 11. Mav Hoffa is 10. Vlad is 9. Elliot Wilson is 8. Karesha is 7. What kind of, I don't even know who the hell this guy is. Kai Canet on Twitch. I have no idea. Nori's 5. Gillian Wallow is 4. Charlemagne is 2. Academics is, no. Charlemagne is 3. Academics is 2. And Joe Budden is number 1. Get the get the fuck out of here. Academics is 2. The guy who was begging to be on the Breakfast Club 4 years had to use a snitch in order to get his name mentioned on the Breakfast Club. And he was friends and kissing butt to Charlemagne the whole time. So he's going to be over him? Wow. Academics is going to be ahead of Gillian Wallow. And Nori and Drink Champs? What kind of crack are these people smoking? We know they used to work for you. This is why you can't trust platforms like this. So that's a prime example right there of we cannot trust you. Now that that's clear, we all got it, we can all move forward. Stop letting these fools guide what is good and what is bad. We have to break that mold. They say everybody's a revolutionary and a pioneer till that bag come. The bag changes everything. Buddy, I've walked away from bags that I probably should have taken. I walked away from people that I probably should have worked with. But then, would I be happy? Would I be me? Shoot, I'm never happy. So, if I'd had all that money, I'd have been around a bunch of people I don't like. I would have been in a bunch of parties and surrounded and doing all this crazy stuff that I don't want to do. But the network says we need it. It's a good luck. Until they cast you out and grab another one. See, when you're a threat to waking minds, then they start bringing in other people and trying to say, you're the problem and they got to deal with you and all this nonsense. So it's always someone else tearing apart the best parts of the day. I love it. So on that note, I'm out. I want to say thank y'all for listening to the show. God bless y'all. Good night.